We continue our devotional series in the Gospel of Luke as we look at Jesus' journey to the cross. We're in Luke 20, and this is the last week of Jesus' ministry before he goes to his crucifixion. And he's engaging with the people of Jerusalem as passionately, as honestly as possible to have them turn to God and repent. And in these intense encounters, there are teachings, there are parables, but it's all Jesus trying to help them see the choice that's before them, building up this idea of making a choice. Will you humble yourself before the Lord, or will you keep on insisting on your own way with God? He does it in this passage with the parable of the vineyard tenants. The Lord is trying to get through to the people of Jerusalem. He's trying to get through to us. But even as he makes entreaties, we bargain. We bargain with God as if the life we have isn't borrowed from him. And Jesus makes it clear that doubling down on our so-called rights leads us to a frightening entitlement and to a bad end. So, Luke chapter 20, beginning in verse 9. And Jesus began to tell the people this parable. A man planted a vineyard and let it out to tenants and went into another country for a long while. When the time came, he sent a servant to the tenants so they would give him some of the fruit of the vineyard. But the tenants beat him and sent him away empty-handed. And he sent another servant, but they also beat and treated him shamefully and sent him away empty-handed. And he sent yet a third. This one they also wounded and cast out. Then the owner of the vineyard said, "What shall I do? I will send my beloved son. Perhaps they will respect him." And when the tenants saw him, they said to themselves, "This is the heir. Let us kill him, so that the inheritance may be ours." And they threw him out of the vineyard and killed him. What then will the owner of the vineyard do to them? He will come and destroy those tenants and give the vineyard to others. When they heard this, they said, "Surely not." But he looked directly at them and said, "What then is this that is written? The stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. Everyone who falls on that stone will be broken to pieces, and when it falls on anyone, it will crush him." As we are at play in the fields of the Lord, if I can make that reference to the book from the 60s and the movie later, as we're at play in the vineyard of God, and we're seeking to be a success, to get the things that we want, to get ahead, we have choices to make. Will we bang our head against the mountain of God, seeking to get our way and pulverizing ourselves in the process? Or will we break from insisting on our way and humbly follow God's lead? The choice is, will we break or will we be crushed? Now, what do I mean by crushed? The parable of the tenants takes up the bulk of this passage, but the meaning behind it, the challenge of the parable, is summed up in the last verse. If you fall upon the rock, the stone, you'll break. But if the rock falls on you, you'll be crushed. The rock is God himself, Jesus by extension. And the rock falling upon you, upon us, is judgment. My daughter dropped a mug in the street a day or two ago, and when it hit the ground, it just broke into pieces. And if we were so inclined, we could piece those things back together and make it whole again. But when something is crushed, it's turned to powder. There's no hope of repair for that. How do we get to a place of judgment? How do we get to this place where we're threatened with being crushed? Well, we get there by bad choices. And I'm not talking about the kind of choice of wearing a polka dot tie with a plaid shirt. Not that kind of bad choice. It's decisions where we put our own interests before the needs of other people, pursuing my pleasure and satisfaction over against the basic needs of those around me, like overcharging people who really don't have expendable money. Having the liability for something I've done shoved onto someone else, and they take the punishment for it. The tenants, the rent comes due, but they would rather keep the harvest, they would rather keep the profits for themselves than give it to the owner. And so they beat up the tax collector for good measure. Verse 10, when the time came, he sent a servant to the tenants so they would give him some of the fruit of the vineyard. But the tenants beat him and sent him away empty-handed. The tenants think they can outplay the owner, and this is a bad choice. And what makes it worse is that they double down on their choice. Another servant is sent, perhaps a chance to put things right. But no, they repeat their selfish and entitled behavior. And he sent another servant, but they also beat and treated him shamefully, which seems to increase the poor treatment of the servant. And they sent him away empty-handed. And they do it a third time in verse 12. They keep doubling down. Now, I know many of you don't know my wife. Her name is Mary. And I might be tempted to say that we have a near perfect relationship. But we do have our moments. And the both of us are clever and intelligent and skillful with words. We can fully convince ourselves of the moral and intellectual superiority of our position when we're in the midst of a disagreement. But when we get in that disposition, in the midst of a fight, we can say and do things that hurt. Now, we're both mature adults, so we simply point that out and we say calmly, that hurt. To which one of us might respond, well, regardless, I'm still right. And then there will be the follow-up response, oh, you're going to double down on that, are you? Even when we see the path before us is not going to end well, our pride, our selfishness, our stubbornness pushes us to keep making the same kinds of choices as if somehow we can win. And in the process, we're going to be crushed. The Lord calls on us instead to break to pieces. Yes, but the image conveys the idea of breaking from the ways we've been living so that the Lord can make us whole. This week, as you face those choices between doubling down on your own way or breaking in humility, what will you do? What will you do? I pray we all have the wisdom to humbly break before the Lord. Blessings on you all.